Welcome back to Inside the Philippines. If you're new here, this is the channel where men who went looking for a second chance on the far side of the world sit down and tell you, honestly, exactly how it went. The good and the bad. Mostly the bad, if we're being truthful, because those are the ones you learn from. Today's man is called Wolfgang. He's 65 years old, from Gelsenkirchen, in the old coal country of Western Germany, and he spent 38 years of his life underground as a bergman, a coal miner, a quiet man, the kind of man you could stand next to at a bar for an hour and never get 3 sentences out of. And he came to the Philippines carrying a secret. Not a dark one, not a shameful one, just a secret he'd kept so long and so well that keeping it had become the only thing he really knew how to do. He married a woman half his age. She thought she'd married a poor man. And here's the thing that's going to stick with you about this one, because it stuck with me when I first heard it. This is not a story about a woman who stole a fortune. It's the opposite. It's a story about a man who buried one, and what that buying cost him in the end. He told me most of this looking at the table, not at me. That's just how he is. So I'm going to get out of the way now and let him tell it the way he told me. Here's Wolfgang, in his own words. My name is Wolfgang. I am from Gelsenkirchen. You probably never heard of it, and that is fine. Nobody has. It is a city in the Ruhr, and the Ruhr was coal, and now the Ruhr is not coal. So what the Ruhr is now, I could not tell you exactly. I went down the pit at 17. My father was a bergman, his father also. That is just what you did. You went to the Zec. You got in the cage went down, and the light of the day went away over your head, like water closing. 38 years I did that. Same cage, different holes in the ground, but the same cage, more or less. People ask me, was it not frightening? And I say, past schon. It's fine. That is a thing we say. It's fine. No problem. Don't worry. I said it about everything my whole life. The gas, the dust, the roof groaning over you like an old man turning in his sleep. Past schon. You do not complain in the pit. A man who complains, the others stop trusting him. And down there, trust is the only thing keeping you breathing. So you learn to carry things and say nothing. You learn it so well, you forget there is any other way to be. I want to be honest with you, because there is no point otherwise. I was never married. Not once. 65 years old, and never. And it was not that I did not want to. It was that I never learned how to. With the men, in the cage, I was fine. Loyal, they would tell you. A good couple. But put me in a room with a woman, just me and her, and my whole body went stupid. My hands didn't know where to go. My mouth dried up. So somewhere around 40, I just stopped trying. Told myself it wasn't for me. Let the years close over the top of it, the same way the day closed over me every morning in that cage. And here is the part people find hard to believe, so I will just say it plain, and you can do what you like with it. I have money, a lot of it, not from anything clever. From 40 years of doing what a bergman does with his wages, if he has nothing to spend them on, and no one to spend them for. You save. My mother and father died, one after the other, and I sold their house, and I sold mine, and I put it all where the money grows quietly, in the funds, the ETFs, and I never touched it. Never bought a car worth looking at. Wore the same 3 jackets for 20 years. The German pension for a miner is good. Better than people think. So I never even needed the savings. They just sat there, growing, getting bigger every year while I ate my bread and cheese and said nothing to anybody. If you counted it all up, the funds and the houses and the pension behind it, I am. Well, it is more than most men in that street will see in a lifetime. All of it. And not one single person knew. Not the neighbors, not the men from the old shift. Nobody. Because a boy who got laughed at learns young not to reach for a thing where people can see him reach. And a man who has money but shows nothing, nobody can take it from him, nobody can want it off him. That is what I told myself. Safe. I was being safe. So there I was, 62 years old. The last pits shut for good. The couple scattered, some dead, some moved away to their children. The Kneipe, where we used to drink, that closed too, and they put nothing in its place, just a shutter and a for sale sign nobody answered. My days had no shape anymore. I would get up, and there was the whole day, empty, like a shift with no cage to get into. And in the evenings, because a man has to do something, I sat with the phone and I scrolled. Facebook, mostly. Watching other men's lives go past. That's all I did. Sat in that flat with the funds quietly making me richer, and scrolled, and said to the empty room, "Past shown." But it did not pass. That is the thing I understand now that I did not understand then. It never once passed. So, Reinhard. Reinhard was on my shift for maybe 15 years. Not a close friend, but a Kumpel, you understand. In the cage together 1,000 times. His wife died young, cancer, and after that, he was alone like me. Except Reinhard was not built the way I am built. Reinhard could talk. Reinhard walked into a room and the room got louder. I always half envied him for it, and half did not understand it at all. When the pit closed for good, Reinhard did a thing nobody expected. He sold up and he moved to the Philippines. Cebu, he said. Everybody at the Kneipe thought he had lost his mind. A man from Gelsenkirchen, 60-odd years old, going to live on the other side of the world where it is hot and he knows nobody. And then the photographs started coming on the Facebook. I want to tell you about these photographs because they are the reason for everything. It sounds stupid. A grown man, his life changed by holiday snaps. But there it is. There was one. I remember it exactly. Reinhard at a plastic table, the cheap kind, white, the legs never quite even. A bottle of San Miguel sweating on the table. Behind him the sun going down over water, and the light was this gold you do not get in the Ruhr. Not ever. And there was a woman in the picture, a local woman, laughing at something off to the side. Not laughing for the camera, laughing at something real. I sat in my flat with the heating clicking and the gray coming down outside the window, and I looked at that photograph for a long time. Longer than a man should look at a photograph of another man he was not even that close with. And something in me reached. I have thought about this a lot since, because I told you already. I am a man who does not reach. 40 years I taught myself not to. But that evening, with that gold light on the screen and Reinhard laughing his easy laugh at a plastic table, I reached and I could not stop myself. And to be honest, I did not want to. Why the Philippines? People ask me this. Why not Thailand? Why not somewhere? And I have some reasons, and they are all true, and none of them are the real one. They speak English there, the Filipinos. Very good English, better than mine. That mattered, because my English was from school and from the pit, functional, nothing fancy. I could manage, and they are Catholic. My mother was Catholic, proper Catholic, rosary in her hands until the end. There was something in that, a place with churches, with the bells, with people who still believed in something. It felt less foreign to me than it should have. But the real reason I did not say to anybody, not even quite to myself, nobody there knew me. You understand? In Gelsenkirchen, I was the quiet one. the one who never married. 62 years, and never a wife. And everybody knew it, and nobody said it, but everybody knew. There is a way people look at a man like that. Kind, some of them, but it is still a look. In the Philippines, I would just be a man. A new man they had never met. Nobody knew I was shy. Nobody knew I was the boy who got laughed at. I could arrive there and be anyone, and the anyone I wanted to be was just normal. A normal man who could sit at a plastic table in the gold light. So I booked it. And this is very me, so I will tell you. I booked the cheapest flight I could find, some horrible route through Doha, with a 9-hour wait, and I booked a pension in Lapu-Lapu, which is on the island by the Cebu airport, for something like 1,200 a night, maybe 18 euro. I could have stayed anywhere. I could have bought the whole hotel, near enough. I booked the cheapest room with a fan and no window. Because that is what I am. Even reaching for the thing, I reached cheaply, quietly, so nobody would see me do it. And I told the neighbors nothing. Told them I was visiting a cousin. I have no cousin. The Philippines. Mein Gott. Nobody tells you about the heat. It is not the heat of a summer. It is a wet heat. It sits on you the second you walk out of the airport, like a hand on the back of your neck. And the noise. The tricycles going past, these little motorbikes with the sidecar bolted on, screaming past with no exhaust to speak of. The smell of the diesel and under it something cooking, sweet and smoky. Meat on a stick somewhere. Somebody's radio. And already, somebody's singing karaoke, badly, in the middle of the afternoon. I stood on the pavement outside that airport with my one bag, and I did not know what to do with myself. People smiling at me. Kano, Kano, the little ones said, which I learned later means the American, means the white man, and they did not mean anything bad by it. They were just curious, and I did not know how to smile back. 40 years of practice at not being noticed, and here everybody noticed, and I stood there like a fool. The first 2 days, I barely left the pension. I am ashamed of it a little. I came all that way, and then I sat in a room with a fan for 2 days, because the outside was too much for me. But a man has to eat. There was a carinderia, maybe 30 meters from the pension. You know what this is now, but I did not then. A little place, open to the street, a glass case with metal trays of food already cooked, and you point at what you want, and they put it on rice. Cheap. A full plate for maybe P60, P70. €1. That is why I went, if I am honest. Because it was cheap, and because you did not have to talk. You just point. And behind the trays that first evening, ladling the rice, was a woman. She was not young. That mattered to me, though I could not have said why then. 34, I found out later, which to a man of 62 is young but is not a girl. There was something steady in her face. Tired, maybe. A woman who worked. She looked at me, this big, awkward German sweating through his shirt, pointing at the adobo, because it was the only word I recognized, and she did not laugh at me, and she did not do the extra friendly thing the girls in the other places did. She just said, "Rice, kuya?" And she gave me an extra spoon of it without asking, and waved her hand when I fumbled for the coins. Kuya. Big brother. That is what it means. I sat at her plastic table and I ate, and the karaoke went on somewhere, and the light did that gold thing over the rooftops, and for the first time in longer than I can tell you, I did not feel like the thing I was. I just felt like a man having his dinner. Her name was Marilu. I stayed 3 weeks that first time, and near enough every evening I ate at Marilu's carinderia. I want to be careful how I tell this part, because it is the part one got wrong, and I got it wrong in a way that felt like getting it right. You understand? That is the dangerous kind. She was the eldest of 6. I learned this slowly, over the metal trays, in the bits of talk you have when a man comes back every night and points at the adobo. Then the pancit. Then one evening she says, "You like the pancit, Kuya, and you are talking, and you did not even notice it start." Her father had the diabetes, the sugar, they call it there. He had been a jeepney driver years back, and now his feet were bad and his eyes were going, and the medicine cost money they did not really have. Her mother helped run the Carinderia. 2 of the younger ones were still in school. One brother was trying for a job on the ships, the seaman thing, which is the dream for half the young men there, to be an OFW, to send money home. And Marilu was the one who held it all together, the eldest daughter. I did not know then what that means in the Philippines. I know now. The eldest daughter is not just a daughter. She is a second mother, a bank, a shock absorber for the whole family. Whatever breaks, she is the one who fixes it. Nobody votes on this. It is just so. Here is the thing that got me, though. The thing I keep coming back to. She never asked me for anything. I have watched enough of these stories now, on the YouTube, on this very channel maybe, to know the pattern. The girl who 2 days in has a sick mother, a fee for school, a typhoon that took the roof, the Gcash number that appears like magic. I knew about this even then, a little. Reinhard had warned me in his way. "Watch yourself, Wolfgang," he said. "They can smell a lonely Kano from a mile." But Marilu did not do any of that. If anything, it was the other way. She fed me too much and would not take the extra. Once I tried to leave a bigger note, P500 for a P70 plate, just left it under the plate, like you would at home, and she came running out into the street after me. "Kuya, Kuya, you forget your change," and pressed the coins back into my hand, almost cross about it. And that, I cannot tell you what that did to me, because you have to understand what I was. 62 years old. Never once in my life had a woman wanted my company for nothing. And here was one who not only did not want my money, she chased me down the street to give it back. So I decided it was real. I decided she was different. And here is the thing I have had to sit with. And I will say it plain so you do not think I am a complete fool. I was not entirely wrong. That is the cruel part. She was different. It was, in its way, real. But I built the whole thing on a lie. And the lie was mine, not hers. Because she was being kind to a poor old German. That is who she thought I was. A retired miner on a small pension, counting his coins, staying in the cheap pension with the fan and no window. That is the man she was kind to. And I let her think it. More than let her. I performed it. I wore the same 2 shirts the whole 3 weeks. I took the jeepney everywhere, the P13 fare, packed in with the chickens and the school kids and somebody's sack of rice, when I could have taken a grab, when I could have bought the whole fleet of jeepneys. I told myself I was being humble, being sensible. A man does not flash his money in a poor country. Everybody knows this. It is even good advice. But that was not really why. The real why is older and sadder than that. The real why is that a poor man was safe to be. If she liked the poor man, then she liked me, the actual me, and not the money. The money had always been the thing I hid, my whole life, from everybody. Hiding it here just felt like breathing. I never once did the sum the other way round. I never thought, if she is being this good to a man she believes has nothing, what am I taking from her by keeping the truth in my pocket? That thought did not come to me for years. Should have. Didn't. Near the end of that first trip, her father took a bad turn. The sugar. His foot had an ulcer that would not heal, the way it goes with the diabetes, and he needed the insulin proper now, the good kind, and the strips for testing, and it all came to about $4,000 a month. €65. Nothing. Less than nothing to me. It was a rounding error on one day's growth of the money I was pretending I did not have, and I did not offer it to be clever. I want that on the record. I offered it because the old man was suffering and I could stop it. Easy, and it would have been obscene not to. I said, "Let me help with the medicine." "Marilou, I will help." She cried. Right there behind the metal trays she cried, and she said, "Kuya, God sent you," and I did not know what to say. So I said nothing, which is my way. God sent you. They say this a lot there. God's plan, God's blessing. And some of it is manners, and some of it is manipulation. I know that now, but with her, that time, I think she meant it. I think she truly believed God had sent a kind poor man to help her father. He had not sent a poor man. He had sent a rich one who was too much of a coward to admit it. But she did not know that, and I did not tell her. That $4,000 a month. That was the first thread. It seemed like the smallest thing in the world. They always do. I went home to Gelsenkirchen after those 3 weeks, but I was not the same man who left, and that is the truth. I want to tell you about the calling, because this is where a man my age gets caught, and I did not even know it was happening. Every night, my morning, her evening, we talked on the messenger. She would prop the phone up somewhere in the carinderia and go on with her work, chopping the garlic, wiping the trays, and I would just watch. Listen to the karaoke from the neighbor bleeding in, the tricycles going past, her mother saying something in the Bisaya I could not follow. It was like sitting in the corner of a warm kitchen that was not mine. For a man who came home every night to a flat with the heating clicking and nobody in it, you cannot imagine what that was. Or maybe you can. Maybe that is why you are watching this. "Good morning, Kuya," she would send, with the sun stickers, before I was even awake, and I would wake up to it. 40 years I woke up to an alarm clock and a cold room. Now I woke up to "Good morning, Kuya," and a little yellow sun. The insulin money went every month. $4,000, €65. I set it up on the Remitly so I did not even have to think. Her father got better, the foot healed, and she sent me a photo of him standing up, and she wrote, "My father says thank you to the good German," and I read that maybe 20 times. I went back after 4 months, then again after 3, each time staying longer, 5 weeks, then 2 months. I stopped bothering with the pension after a while and stayed near the family, in a little apartment, $8,000 a month, about $130. Nothing. And here is a thing I have to be honest about, because if I only tell you the sweet parts, I am no better than a liar. The family knew by now that I was the man helping, and the way they treated me changed. Not badly, warmly, but there was a warmth that had a shape to it, if you understand me. I was Kuya to all of them now, the whole clan, cousins I had never met calling me Kuya. When I came from Germany, I was expected to bring the pasalubong, the gifts, the chocolates, and the little things, and if I forgot, there was a quietness that let me know I had forgotten. Never a word. Just a quietness. Saving face, they call it. Nobody says the problem out loud. You just feel it, like the roof groaning. I told myself this was family. This was what family was, over there. And I was not wrong. This is the part the angry men on the internet get wrong, in my opinion. It was not all a trick. In the Philippines, the family is everything, and the eldest daughter carries it, and a man who marries her marries the whole weight of it. That is not a scam. That is just a different world with different rules, and I walked into it with my eyes half shut. But half shut is still half open. And the half of me that was open kept doing a small, quiet sum I never said out loud. We married in the 2nd year. A church wedding, because for them it had to be the church. Catholic, like my mother would have wanted, and I will tell you, standing in that little church in the heat, with the electric fan blowin', and her whole family filling the pews, and Marilou in a white dress her cousin had sewn. I was happier than I had been in my entire life. I am 65, and I have felt few things I would call joy. That was one. The wedding and the party after, the lechon, the whole roast pig, the tables, the videoke going until 2 in the morning, all of it came to maybe 180,000, about 2,900, and I paid it, and I was glad to pay it, and I did not blink. Then came the room. The family house was small, concrete block, tin roof, and full. Too many people in too few rooms. And it was put to me gently, never as a demand, that a married couple needs their own space, and would it not be good to add a room onto the back of the house? For us. For me and Marilou. P170,000, that came too, with the block and the labor and the roof. Round it all up, the wedding and the room together, call it $350,000, nearly $5,700. Now, I want you to hear this properly. To Marilou, to that whole family, $350,000 was a staggering sum. A fortune. More money than her father had seen in his whole driving life. When I paid it, I was, in their eyes, a generous man, stretching himself, a good, poor German emptying his pockets for love. And I let them think that. I performed the stretch. I remember actually pretending to hesitate over the cost of the roofing, doing the frowning, saying, "We must be careful, Marilou," and her taking my hand and saying, "We do not have to, Kuya. If it is too much, we can wait." "We can wait," she said. The woman I was letting believe we were poor was offering to go without a bedroom to spare my feelings. And the whole time, the whole entire time, that $350,000 was less than 1 month's growth on money she did not know existed. I had, sitting quiet, in the funds in Germany, more than 900,000 euro. I could have built them a house each. I could have built the whole street. I said none of it. I frowned about the roofing. I think about that a lot now. Her hand on mine. "We can wait, Kuya." That was the moment, if there was one moment, where I could have said, "Marilou, sit down. I have to tell you something." And we would have had a different life. Maybe a worse one. Who knows? Maybe the money would have poisoned it. But a true one. I didn't. I had spent 63 years learning to hide what I had, and I could not put it down even for her. It was not in me. Past shown, I thought, this is fine. Let her love the poor man. The poor man is safer. The room went up. Gray block, tin roof, a curtain for a door until we could afford a proper one, which of course I could have afforded that afternoon. And I moved into it. Into the little room I had let her fight me to build. And for a while, God help me, I was happy in it. We had maybe 2 good years. I want to say that plainly before I tell you the rest, because the rest is where it goes wrong. And I do not want you to think it was wrong the whole time. It was not. 2 years, near enough, where I woke in that gray little room with the curtain for a door, and I was, for the first time in my life, not alone. That is not nothing. That is the opposite of nothing. But money that is hidden does not stay quiet forever. It presses on things. It presses even when nobody knows it is there. Here is how it started to press. Marilou began to talk about a house. Not the room on the back of her parents' place. Our house. Something that was ours, hers and mine. Away from the crowd and the noise, and her mother in the next room and the cousins coming and going. She had a spot in mind, a little lot her uncle would sell, out toward the edge of things where it was quieter. And a small house on it. Concrete, proper, 2 bedrooms, a real thing. She had it all worked out. She had even been to talk to a man who builds. The lot and the house together, she reckoned, would come to about P2.3 million. I did the sum. Roughly $37,000, $38,000. Now, you know what I had. You have known since the first minute of this. $37,000 was, to me, nothing. It was less than the money made itself in a good few months, while I sat there doing nothing at all. I could have said yes before she finished the sentence. I could have written it that same afternoon and never felt it. And I said no. Not a hard no. I never gave a hard anything. That was not my way. I did the frowning. I did the Marilou. We must be careful. I said the pension only goes so far. I said we are comfortable. Why do we need more? The room is fine. The family is here. I said, and God forgive me for this one. I said, what if something happens to me? We must keep something back. We cannot spend everything. Keep something back. To a woman who did not know there were 900,000 euro to keep. She looked at me a long moment when I said that. I remember it. We were at the Jollibee in the mall in Mandaue. She liked the Chicken Joy, and she had the little plan drawn on a piece of paper folded up in her bag. And she took it out to show me, and I said all my careful poor man things, and she folded it back up and put it away, and did not take it out again. She said, okay, Kuya. Okay. It is okay. And that okay was the quietness I told you about. The roof groaning. The problem that does not get said. I told myself I had done the responsible thing. A sensible man does not blow his savings on a house in a country where, by the way, I could not even own the land under it. That part is true, understand? A foreigner cannot own land in the Philippines, not the ground itself, only the building maybe, or you put the land in the wife's name and pray. Men have lost everything that way. So I had a real reason, a good reason, a reason I could say out loud to myself and to Reinhard and to anyone. But it was not the real reason. The real reason was the same reason it had always been. If I built that house, I would have to explain where $37,000 came from so easily. And explaining meant showing. And showing was the one thing I had never once done for anybody in 64 years. So I hid behind the good reason. I let her think we could not. I performed the poor, careful German so well, I half believed him myself. And she went quiet. Not all at once. In the way water goes cold. So slow you do not feel the moment it happens. The good mornings stopped having the sun stickers. Then some mornings they stopped coming at all, and I would send mine and get one back at noon. She was on the phone more, but turned away, thumbs going. When I asked who, she would say, my cousin, or the group chat, and put it face down. Not hiding, exactly. Just turned away. The cousin, the loud one, Boyer, he made a joke at a birthday party. Everyone drinking the Red Horse, the videoke going, and he said something in Bisaya, and the table laughed, and Marilou did not laugh. And I asked her after what was funny, and she said it was nothing, and I pushed, which I never do, and she said, he called you kuripot. Kuripot means stingy, tight fist, the cheap one. And here is the thing that should have turned me right around, and did not. I was almost pleased. Do you understand how broken that is? Some small cowardly part of me heard kuripot, and thought, good, good. Then the secret is safe. Then they think I have nothing. A rich man who is thought to be stingy is a rich man nobody comes for. I actually felt safer for being insulted. I think about Boyette's joke a lot, because the whole family had started to wonder, in their way, why the German with the German pension was so careful, so slow with everything, when a German pension to them was a wealth beyond dreaming. They did not think, he is a secret millionaire. Nobody thinks that. They thought, he is mean. He does not love her enough to make her comfortable. And that idea, that Wolfgang does not love Marilou enough, that idea got into the house like damp, and I let it, because the alternative was to open my hand. There was a night near the end of that stretch. Roosters already going, 4 in the morning, that flat gray before the heat comes. She was asleep, or I thought she was, and I was on my phone, and I opened the banking, the German account, the funds. I do not know why. To look at the number, I suppose, to feel the old safe feeling of it sitting there. And she stirred and half woke and said, "Sleepy, what are you looking at, Kuya?" And I turned the phone against my chest so the light would not show. Turned it away from my own wife in the dark. And I said, "Nothing. Go back to sleep. Nothing." The most expensive nothing a man ever said. I lay there after with the number still burning behind my eyes, and her breathing beside me, and somewhere in me, I knew. Not the details. Not how it would go. But I knew the room had gone cold, and I was the one who had let the cold in. And I still, even then, even knowing, could not make my hand open. That was the last of the good part. One just did not know it yet. She was gone by the time I understood she was going. That is the truth of it, and I have had to make my peace with the shape of it, because it is not the shape you see in the other stories. There was no big scene. No phone found under a pillow. No screaming in the street. None of that. I keep thinking people want that from me when I tell it. The big moment. And I do not have one to give them. What I have is Marvin. I did not know the name for a while. I only knew that the last months in that little room had gone very quiet, and that Marilou was out more, helping a friend with a small online business, she said, selling clothes on the Facebook Live. And she would be gone in the afternoons, and come back with her face soft in a way it had not been soft with me for a long time. And I told myself, she is happy again, the business is good for her. I told myself that. A man tells himself the thing that lets him keep sleeping. Then one week, she went to her cousin's in Cebu City, and did not really come back. A day, she said, then a few days. Then a bag was gone from the room, and then more of the bag was gone, and it was done in that Filipino way where nobody says the thing. Nobody sits you down. It just becomes true around you a little at a time, like the tide going out while you are looking at the horizon. She sent a message, on the messenger, where she used to send the sun stickers. It was long, and it was kind, actually. That is the part that undid me. It was not cruel. She said I was a good man. She said I had been good to her family, and God would bless me for it. She said she was sorry, that she had tried, that some things a person cannot help. She did not mention any Marvin. She just said she could not do it anymore. The waiting. The waiting. I did not even know then what she thought she had been waiting for. It was Jomar who told me. The younger brother, the quiet one, the one who was trying for the ships. He was always the decent one of them, and I think it sat badly with him what had happened, because a week or so after, he asked me to have a coffee, and we sat in a Bose coffee in the Ayala Mall, him fiddling with the little sugar packets, not looking at me, the same way I do not look at people, and he told me. There was a boy, Marvin, 24. He did the call center work in the IT park, the night shifts, talking to Americans about their internet bills, young, full of the future the way the young are. He had been one of the customers on Marilou's Clothes Live, and then he had been more than that. I said, "Is she happy?" Because that is a stupid thing a man says when he does not know what else. And Jomar was quiet a long time. And then he said, "The thing that I will carry to my grave." And he did not say it to be cruel. He said it because he thought I already knew, and he was ashamed on behalf of his whole family. He said, "Kuya, she thought she wasted her best years on a poor old man who would never build her anything. She is 38. She thought this was all her life would ever be. This room, forever. An old German counting his coins. She wanted a house, a future. She thought you could not give it. So she went to someone who has nothing but at least is not afraid to want things with her. Someone who has nothing." You understand what happened in me when he said that? I have tried to describe it, and I cannot really. It was not the wife leaving. Men lose wives. It was that she left because she thought I was poor, and I had built that lie with my own hands, brick by brick, the same careful way I built everything, and now it was a wall between us, and she had climbed over it to a boy with empty pockets and an honest want. She left the poor man, and the poor man was a millionaire. And I had made her believe the poor man so well that being poor was the reason she could not stay. I did not tell Jomar, even then, even sitting there gutted in a Bose coffee with the aircon too cold and the mall music playing something soft and stupid, some part of me clamped down on it, kept it, the way I have kept everything my whole life. I nearly said it. I nearly said, "Jomar, listen, there is money. There is so much money, if she had only." And I did not, because to say it out loud would have meant admitting the whole thing had been mine to fix all along, that I could have handed her that P2.3 million house any afternoon, that her best years were not wasted on a poor man, but thrown away by a rich coward. Easier to be pitied as the poor old husband than known as that. Even then, even losing everything that mattered, I chose the secret over the truth. That is who I am. I have to look at that now, and I never confronted her. Never. There was nobody to confront. That was the thing. She had not lied to me. She had not scammed me. She had not taken a peso that was not freely given. She had married a man she thought was poor, been good to him for years, and finally could not bear a life she believed had no future in it. Everything she believed was a thing I had made her believe. I did not chase her. What would I chase her with? The truth, I was too much of a coward to have told her when it could have saved us. To pull it out now would just be buying her back. And I knew even in my state that a woman bought is not a woman kept. So I let her go, quietly, the way she went, the way I do everything. I flew back to Germany not long after, sat on that long flight through Doha again, going the other way this time, and I did the sum one last time out of habit. Everything still there, every euro. The insulin money, the wedding, the room, the little apartments, all the years of it, it did not even come to $40,000 all told. I had lost, in money, almost nothing. I had just lost the only 2 years I was ever happy, and the only person who was ever kind to the man she thought had nothing. "Past Sean," I said to the window. "It's fine. It was not fine. It has never once been fine. I have been back in Gelsenkirchen a year now. Bit more. The flat is the same. The heating clicks the same. The gray comes down the same over the same street, where the kneipe is still shuttered, and nobody has bought it, and nobody will. I sit here in the evenings, my morning now, with nobody sending a little yellow sun to wake up to, and I count it up sometimes, out of the old habit. Everything is there. The pension comes in, $1,600 a month, more than a man alone in a paid-off flat can spend. The funds sat there the whole time and grew while my marriage died, and they are bigger now than when I left. Over 900,000. Closer to 1,000,000, with what the years have added. I am, on paper, a wealthy man. I have never in my life been poorer. People hear this story and they want it to be about her. They want the Filipina who took the old German. And I understand why, because that is the story you have heard 100 times, and some of those stories are true, God knows. But that is not mine, and I would be a liar and a coward twice over if I let you think it. She took nothing. Add it all up, the insulin, the wedding, the room, the little apartments, the pasalubong, all the years of it, and it does not come to $40,000. For a man with what I have, that is not a loss. That is a rounding error. Any honest man who has watched this channel knows the real disasters are men who lost the house, the pension, the lot, everything, to a woman who never loved them for a day. That is not what happened to me. What happened to me is worse, in a way that has no number on it. She loved the poor man. That is the thing I have had to sit with in this flat for a year. She was good to him. She was good to a man she believed had nothing, for years, when she could have looked elsewhere and did not for a long time. The kindness was real. Jomar's family, the whole warm, loud clan of them, the utang na loob, the church, the lashon, the good mornings, none of it was the con the internet men would tell you it was. It was a real family and a real woman and a real marriage. And I was the one thing in it that was false. I was the fraud, not her, me, because I sat on nearly €1,000,000 and let my wife believe we could not afford a $37,000 house. I let her fold her little drawing back into her bag and say, "Okay, Kuya, it's okay." I let her decide over 2 long, quiet years that she had married a dead end, an old man with no future in him, and that her best years were draining away in a concrete room with a curtain for a door. And every single day of that, I had the power to change it in one afternoon, and I did not, because I was more afraid of being seen than I was of being left. I keep coming back to that night. 4 in the morning, the rooster's going, and she half woke and asked what I was looking at, and I turned the phone against my chest, turned my own money away from my own wife in the dark. If there was one moment God gave me to put it right, that was it. Sit up, put on the light, say, "Marilu, wake up, I have to show you something, I have been a coward, look." And a different life starts right there, in that room. I turned the phone away instead. Because that is what I am. That is what 38 years down the pit, and 65 years of being the boy who got laughed at, made of me. A man who would rather lose the best thing he ever had than let anybody see his hand. So here is what I would say to you. If you are a man like me watching this, and I think some of you are, the quiet ones, the savers, the ones who have more than anybody knows and tell nobody, because telling feels like danger. Your money is not your protection. It only feels that way. A thing you cannot share with the one person who is supposed to know you. That thing is not a nest egg. It is a wall, and you can end up on one side of it completely alone, with all your careful money stacked up around you like the cold. I thought I was keeping it safe. From scammers, from wanting, from being used. And I was so busy keeping it safe that I never once spent it on the only thing it was ever for. She never wanted my fortune. Jomar was right. She wanted a future, and a man who was not afraid to build one with her. And I had the money for 100 futures, and not the courage for one. Past shown. I said that my whole life. It's fine, don't worry. Nothing to see. It was never fine. That was the lie under all the other lies. And I said it so long and so well that I said it right through the one good thing, and out the other side. And now I sit here where I always was, alone in the gray. Except now I know exactly what it cost, and it did not cost money. That is all. That is the whole of it. I do not have wisdom, really. I have one thing. Open your hand, even when it frightens you. Especially then. That is Wolfgang. He wanted to tell it himself, all the way through, and I think you can hear why. His is not the story we usually tell on this channel, and that is exactly why we wanted to bring it to you. Because the warning most of you came here for, the scammer, the con, the fortune stripped away, that warning is real, and we will keep telling it. But there is another way to lose everything that matters, and it does not come from the other side of the world. It comes from inside a man. It is the loss that arrives, not because you gave too much, but because you could not bring yourself to give the one thing that was actually asked of you. Not money. Yourself. Marilou was not a villain. Wolfgang will not let us make her one, and he is right. She was a woman who waited a long time for a life, and finally stopped waiting. What broke that marriage was not the Philippines, not utang na loob, not the age gap, not a young man in a call center. It was a wall a lonely man built out of his own fear and called safety. So if you saw a little of yourself in him tonight, sit with that. Ask what you are keeping back, and who you are keeping it from, and whether the keeping is really protecting you or just keeping you alone. Money can be replaced. The person across from you, the one asking only that you let them see you, cannot. Thank you for spending this time with us. If this one moved you, or if you know a man who needs to hear it, share it with him. Take care of yourselves out there, and take care of the people who are trying to love you. This has been Inside the Philippines.